All right, Happy New Year. I call this meeting to order. I will be substituting for Chair Arad, who is out sick. We have a quorum, and so a quorum has been established. I would like to ask our former colleague, Member Emeritus Christian Buggs, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'd like to take a point of personal privilege to congratulate our former colleague, Board Member Chair Buggs, on her new role as President Buggs, President of Pencil, President and CEO of Principal and Pencil. So you will be missed, but we are more than happy and more importantly, more proud of you in your new role, continue your advocacy for Metro schools. So thank you. All right, I need a motion to adopt the agenda as approved. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
There's a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Second. It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the adoption of the agenda passes. We will now move on to awards and recognitions.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair Player, and good evening to all of our board members. We've had a good first couple of days back in school. It's exciting to be with you again as we kick off the 2024 school year. Tonight, I'm excited to recognize a legendary coach who continues to make his student athletes and his school better every day. Tonight, we will be recognizing one of our finest. Pearl Cone High School head coach football coach Tony Brunetti led the Firebirds to the TSSAA state championship in Division 4A in an undefeated season that ended with a victory over Upperman in the Blue Cross Bowl on December 2nd. This was a tremendous achievement by Coach Brunetti and his team and staff, with wonderful support from family members, fans, Principal Miriam Harrington, faculty and staff, our very own support hub, athletic department, and the entire Pearl Cone community. This is Pearl Cone's first state championship since 1997 and Metro's first since 2008, which shows how hard it is to get to the top of the mountain in a state that is full of good football programs. But I have a feeling it won't take us that long to get there again. For his great work, Coach Brunetti was named the High School Coach of the Year last month by the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have been a great partner to our schools in many ways, including helping us put in turf fields for our high schools, and Pearl Cone was among the first of those last fall. So it is very fitting that the Firebirds' inaugural season on turf ended in a state championship, and this honor for Coach Brunetti. And the award from the Titans means Coach Brunetti is a nominee for the NFL's 2023 Don Shula High School Coach of the Year Award. And one more thing to congratulate Coach Brunetti for. He also was named the first High School Sports Person of the Year by the Tennessean. These are amazing and very well-deserved accomplishments, and I'd like to congratulate Coach Brunetti and ask him and Josh Corey from the Titans, as well as any other Pearl Cone and Titans representatives with us here tonight, to come up for a photo and to give him a huge applause as he comes. Coach Brunetti, let us recognize you. Again, congratulations and thank you to Coach Bernetti for all your great work with your student athletes at Pearl Cone. And with that, Vice Chair Player, I'll turn it back over to you.
Now that we finish awards and recognitions, we will go on to Director's Report, which will have core tenets, identifying and eliminating inequities. I'm going over the equity roadmap update.
All right, thank you again, Vice Chair Players and board members. I'm going to be welcoming up our Executive Officer for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Ashford Hughes, to provide an equity roadmap update in just a few minutes. But I wanted to first ground the conversation we're going to be having. Equity is not the role of one person, one department, or one initiative. It is a core tenet of this district, and all of the work we do is rooted in identifying and eliminating inequities throughout the entire district to ensure every student has an opportunity to be the best, most successful version of themselves. Throughout the last few years, we have seen improvements across all student groups. We're coming off the second year of being named a Level 5 school district in TVOS growth, and we outpaced the state last year in nearly all major TCAP categories. Our equity roadmap is rooted in building systems and structures to make sure the equity we seek in terms of outcomes is apparent and relevant to the daily lives of our teachers, students, and staff. While we're focused on equity broadly for all groups of students, we've also had to prioritize and tackle some of the biggest issues first regarding the largest student population groups who have been historically disadvantaged. That's reflected by our work with community meetings with key leaders throughout the city who reflect our student population. And looking at data showing results, there are state and federal designations for which student groups we monitor in terms of gaps in results and for which we are held accountable, and we hold our teams accountable to ensure positive results. There are also some student population groups who may have unique needs, but for whom we do not or cannot collect information about those demographic profiles. Now, let me be clear. There's nobody who's going to hold us more accountable to ensuring the needs of our students are met than ourselves. We developed our focused outcomes to ensure that we do just that, not waiting for state testing results or feedback to make corrective actions throughout the year to improve results. There are still persistent gaps in achievement and outcomes seen throughout the nation caused by pervasive societal factors outside of our control. However, we can and we will and we are working to ensure that we address what is within our locus of control through systems, our structures, coaching, and feedback designed to improve our craft and ensure every student is known. In speaking with board members, some of you have requested an update on our specific equity work aligned to the Equity Roadmap Signature Initiative. And so with that, I'd like to welcome and turn the mic over to Ashford to provide some context for where we've been working to advance equity and where we plan to go in the future. Ashford.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. Good evening, board. I greet you a happy new year. I hope you all had a joyous time. I know my son and board member McKinney's son spent a lot of time via technology, keeping in touch with each other over the break. So happy to see everyone here. I come with you the last two times I've been before you. first 2 years ago, I really came to present an understanding of what the equity roadmap was, how we forged that document, and what it meant for us in identifying terminology, language, strategies, and practices that we wanted to move forward. Last year, I came to you with the mantra of us doing now and building towards, looking at what we were doing, taking step-by-step analysis in order to ensure that we were creating the learning environments where all students were thriving and moving forward. Today, I want to begin grounding us in the understanding of the mantra that Dr. Battle and our district is using now: know where you are, but don't stay there. And really, this quote really helped us to really see where we are moving and processing towards along that journey. So we're going to talk about a little bit about a narrative and the work that's being taken place within our district this past year since we last spoke. And I want to draw attention to this last sentence to you when we talk about this journey. This means that we must commit to the journey while also committing to the work. A lot of the work that we're doing around equity is dealing with changing hearts and minds, but ensuring that we're focused on changing strategies and day in and day out practices in order that we're providing every and each student what they need to be most successful. We always want to start with the grounding of this core tenet, which serve as our values, what we believe in, and our commitments as a district. While we identify and really highlight identifying and eliminating inequities, all four of our core tenets are equity plays. These are intersectional to the work that we're doing, and they all work amongst each other. But invaluable that we have, based with the leadership of Dr. Battle and your leadership, really highlighted that we really are taking a data-driven analysis of identifying and eliminating inequities. Here, again, we continue to talk about what our focused outcomes are when we talk about goals and how we're using strategies to reach our ultimate goals around literacy, SEL, numeracy, and transitions. We know through the data and processing, these are key elements to ensure that our schools, that our children and our families have what they have to be successful while they're in our buildings and when they're not in our buildings. And these are the processes and identities that we utilize as we're shaping this work in our community across every school. Looking again at our signature initiatives, while again we highlight the equity roadmap as that aspirational document that has really given us a call to action, all of our signature initiatives really work to each other. All of these are equity plays, aligning strategies, processes in order to change systems, to change the people within our systems, and to change positive outcomes for all of our students. Our equity roadmap really is aligned with around three strategies, three frameworks. You'll hear about the next two, which we've aligned to ensure that we get the best out of everybody, not only our students, but our educators as well. So when we talk about where we are in the utilization of the equity roadmap, we first start with the framework around a lens. And again, as Dr. Battle said, not just within the DEI division, but across all divisions, how are we looking at our practices and procedures through a lens that is inclusive? Do we have the right people at the table? Do we have an inquiry-based process to ensure that we're getting the most out of everything that we're doing? Drawing attention to the 5 domains. When we look at equity within our district, we're not just talking about specific goals. We also are talking about strategy. The equity strategies are what we're doing. They serve as the vehicle by which we're helping to uplift our focused outcomes on a day in and day out basis. Really, the first 3 are the ones this last year that we have really worked with our educators, with our families on to double down on. Culturally relevant teaching and learning, school-wide systems and institutionalized structure, family, caregiver, and community partnerships. You'll hear about this later on in the presentation, but we've really worked to incorporate to make certain that we have practices, processes, and support, because we know that our teachers and our students need the support necessary to thrive within this school environment. A quick glance at our timeline over the last years. I've shown some of this in the past. We know year 1 was COVID, highlighting what year 0 was COVID, highlighting year 1, 21, 22. We really look at the completion and the creation of the equity roadmap and the launching of that across all of our systems. Looking at year 2 in that 2022, 2023 year, really providing the support for our instructional leadership teams. And you hear me talk about this much further. Every school has an instructional leadership team that is working off of a leadership playbook and 5 core leadership plays. We have really been working hard with our leadership teams to ensure we have equitable practices and alignment with that work to our focus outcomes. Second semester, which we're really excited about from 22-23, we began to develop our DEI 2.0, really working with instructional leadership teams, departments on culturally relevant pedagogy. What does that look like in practice? Vitally important. And then we began our equity collaboration tours, really looking at how do we connect with community to ensure we hear boots on the ground feedback from what's taking place and what is needed to continue to expand and enhance the work that we're doing within the district. Current year, again, along with DEI foundational trainings, we have social emotional learning trainings, MTSS support trainings that are still going on that are not just one-time things. And especially, we are now beginning to continuously, now that we have even better data over these last 3 years since COVID, to really align the data with the strategies to ensure that the resources are all connecting to help each and every student. So I shared this slide to talk about the types of support over these last years that we began. When we started off with the launch of the roadmap, we really were in the phase of hearing it, communicating what it meant to have the same terminology, what equity looked like in practice. Year two, as we've been in that phase, we've been acquiring, applying, and internalizing these strategies. Along with our other signature initiatives, you'll see moving forward that now we are in the process of believing it. And we have got a long way from getting feedback from educators and family that we're now moving in that direction. Where we're going with the equity roadmap from here is hopefully moving towards living it, where we're now integrating the work and it becomes business as usual. Therefore, now we begin to look out to the future to see what's on the horizon and not just sometimes focus on what's right in front of us. But this is our collective journey and how we're moving along that network over periods of time. So where are we now? Again, working with a comprehensive coaching and training plan across all districts and across all tiers. And when we talk about the comprehensive training plan, again, we know that one training, one professional development does not work. That's why we're putting things in continuums of time, so we have continuous learning, that we have coaching, because we know that our coaches play a significant role in the support of our educators. We talk about our established community engagement and listening sessions. We know that many districts, many schools across our district are having conversations with community and families. But under Dr. Battle's leadership, we took it upon ourselves to say, what can senior cabinet do in collaboration with our board members to ensure that our community, and we're hearing directly from them, particularly some of our communities that are having perceived challenges, and we begin to take that on. And then one of the most important things is a significant expansion of opportunities that drive student success. Again, I go back to all the work that has been taking place within our district. And I want to pause for a second to talk about, I know Board Chair Elrod is not here, but I know Board Member Nabama McKinney was in San Diego with us for the Council of Great City Schools. It's important for the board and the community to know that our district really is a beacon of light and a district that other districts are learning from. At that convening, myself and Dr. McKinney were actually on a panel with 3 other large districts focused on a discussion around expanding equity. Dr. Battle gave a panel discussion to superintendents. Our division of schools, Dr. Bellum and his team gave a panel discussion as other districts were learning about our leadership playbooks and the thing that we were doing to grow leaders within our school district. I'm fortunate enough to serve from an equity lens as the co-chair for the equity division on the Council of Great City Schools with 21 other cities. So I say all that to say, as we move the needle with where we are in our district, we are not only championing the work here, but other cities are looking to us to get answers and how we're doing the work and how we're leveraging the skills and the leadership development to move things forward for our students. Again, where we are, we talk about those foundational trainings from just a couple of departments, not extensive to all, but these are vitally important based on how are we achieving and supporting our focused outcomes. We have the DEI Foundations trainings, the SEL Essential trainings, which are year-round. And again, understanding that we have been adaptive in how we present professional learning opportunities, building professional learning communities where they're more than just a one-off. We want to make certain that we're building capacity where these trainings go on year-round and the schools themselves have the support they need to host these trainings and continuous learning with their departments. The principal cohorts. Over the last year, we have held 3 particular cohorts for principals, executive principals, with tassel credit, totaling 29 principals. 2 of those cohorts are focused on DEI principles for principals, helping principals to analyze data across student groupings from a equity lens and looking at how we can continue to make better aligned decisions for all students, regardless of their background. Vitally important. We've hosted this last year over 6 book studies totaling about 125 staffers. These book studies are executive principal requested. Book studies focused on things such as dealing with unconscious bias. How are we looking at data from an equity lens? What are we doing to have coaching for equity? So again, these book studies will last 3 to 4 months, and they really are an immersive dive based off of what principals say they need to help their instructional leadership team and other leaders in the building. And then another really exciting opportunity that we've jumped into is this process with the National Equity Project. The National Equity Project is a national organization that works with a variety of school districts. They also work with government entities, really helping them hone in on what does it mean to be a more equitable organization. Early this summer, we worked with 2 cohorts of 60 educators. The educators were either part of our Teacher Leadership Institute or they were recommended by their principals to really dive into a 2-day immersive understanding of identifying students' cultural identity and how to use that to the advantage in education. Really got a lot of great feedback from that. But this is just one example of a partnership that we're utilizing to incorporate training over time. And we've taken that 2-day immersive training and working with our Division of Schools and our PD department to ensure that that learning, we gravitate that to learning that we can continuously utilize moving forward. And again, highlighting our instructional leadership teams. These 23 total schools represent the number of schools that the DEI division has been working towards. But again, we know that across our district, we have an instructional leadership team in all of our schools. So we have been making process moving forward that, again, we work closely with those 5 leadership plays that have been aligned in our leadership playbook to ensure that the DEI work is aligned with the Division of Schools work every day. We're working across 15 different divisions across 5 different departments because we understand, as Dr. Battle said earlier, equity cannot live with just one person or one department. So we make certain that we have a collective equity ideology when we make professional development, when we're having ideas around strategy and looking for best outcomes. And again, I draw your attention to 2 additional cohorts that we're working with the National Equity Project. One of the cohorts is around coaching. Again, these are from our EL coaches, ELA coaches, social studies and math coaches. We were in this past fall, a 2-day immersive coaching practice called Coaching for Equity. We have a follow-up to that immersive practice January the 23rd. This spring, we're immersed with many of our other coaches in EE, MTSS, and data to go through that same process. We also are fortunate enough to work with this organization as we work with our targeted cohorts for educators, our first being African-American educators that is going to start in February. Where are we? So I think too, when we first started this process, and I know board member Nabai McKinney was one of the first board members to participate in our very first community equity listening tour. We met at the mosque. We have also had board member Frida Player has been there. Board member Sharon Gentry has been the one. I believe also board member Cheryl Mays has attended one as well. And these are opportunities that we meet with specific targeted community groups to come together to hear about what are they hearing from their families and their students so that we can afford to make better decisions. That has been a great process for us to listen and to learn, but also for us to collaborate in the ways by which we come back to our district to say, this is what we're hearing. How do we ensure that from every level, everybody's hearing this same thing? While we have had this take place for the last year, we have our first quarter of listening sessions set up again as well. So look forward to that process. But we've been using the you said, we heard, we did protocol. I can't tell you the number of participants that were astonished or just grateful for that we did that protocol, that when they told us things, we went back to our teams and came back and said, well, since we heard this from you, these are the steps that we have taken since then. And it has been a positive interaction since we first held that last January. pointing, many of you, we have shared plenty of data on a lot of these, but I wanted to highlight this tier 1 instruction about where we are. I can never say enough the importance of our literacy reimagined piece in being one of our most important racial equity strategies within our district. Just this past summer, with Math to the Nth, we trained all of our math educators on our new math curriculum. And really, we have been working with our math team and our ELA team constantly to ensure that the instruction and the DEI principles are locked in tight together. We also have been focused on extended learning time, knowing that many of our students, we need more education and more learning beyond just the regular hours. So we have expanded and been really doubling down on our scholars portfolio. Also looking towards our SEL and academic integration. This has just been really important that both the SEL department has been providing schools with SEL snippets. So at the beginning of any staff meetings that they have, that leaders can utilize these SEL practices to incorporate day in and day out to continue to build their capacity to do this on their own. And then I will be remiss without really touching on our college and career readiness. We know that early on in the process around equity, that continued to be a major conversation, but that team has really done a yeoman's job over the last year and a half, going on 2 years, to really shape and shift the process to ensure that every family understands what access they have to our total platform of EPSOs in order to increase their learning opportunity. We have made certain that the communication is well and that students on the front end know all the opportunities they have. And this still is a growing process, but we have made tremendous strides in making certain that students understand what they have access to and that they're gaining access to these opportunities. This is just some quick data information. Again, not comprehensive of the total PDs that we're doing, professional learning opportunities that we're encompassing across the district. But we talk about those foundational cores that we continue to make certain that we give, working with our HR and talent management. Every new teacher that comes in goes through these foundational trainings, and we continue to ensure that we encompass and grow these better and better. I wanted to highlight just some quick conversations around what are we hearing from our educators once they go through some of our trainings. And I just want to highlight two from one of our book clubs and then one from our DI 2.0 training. From our book club, one of our educators. I feel like I now have an equity radar, and I feel like it strengthens with every deep dive study that I do. From our DEI 2.0 training, which is focused on culturally relevant pedagogy, this training is so important and crucial for any teacher, even if you don't work with a diverse population. It presented more questions and curiosities in myself, and I want to dig even deeper. And I want to circle back and give a quotation from one of our participants within our equity roadmap tours. Many of you know her, Sabina Moyandin, who is the executive director of the American Muslim Advisory Council, asked about her experience within our tours. This was what Sabina highlighted. The Muslim community is grateful for Dr. Battle's leadership and for meeting with different community groups along with her senior cabinet members. Through these direct conversations, we can openly discuss the issues facing Muslim students and staff in MNPS and are working together towards equitable solutions. So again, looking at how the interaction, the interface with our community is leading to more trust and more ways that we can understand each other for the betterment of our students and our families. These, again, are our equity commitments. And really, when we talk about equity, to demystify the word, we're really talking about leadership development, human development. And really, this is what I have contemplated as the 4 C's of our adaptive leadership. We know sometimes leadership offers technical responses, but in our district, when we're talking about equity, we need both technical responses and those adaptive responses that really get to root cause issue. So we talk about capacity building. This is our commitment to doing that across all tiers in all schools. We talk about building connections, those building equity network connections. When we talk to educators, it is vital that they feel they have within their cohort, within their cluster, those connections to continue to build upon in increasing efficiency and maximizing the strategies they have as a cluster. We talk about, and these last two are vitally important because there's sometimes tension between head and heart and practices. But we talk about building cognition, shifts in beliefs and values, and the building of confidence, self-efficacy, and shifts in practice. We know that we have to do both at the same time. And this is our commitment across our equity roadmap and across all encounters that we have in the district to see that through. Again, our focused outcomes are our equity commitments. Our 5 domains are ways by which we utilize strategies to uplift and support our focused outcomes. Where are we going? As Dr. Battle alluded to earlier in her note, every student group has made gains over the last 2 years, indicating that the roadmap strategies, in conjunction with other key strategies and initiatives, is increasing opportunities for success for all students. And again, knowing where we are going, the equity roadmap, we continue to evolve. We now have a greater data portfolio. We now are aligning strategies to be more cohesive with direct tools for implementation so that we can ensure that we're thinking about the best practices available and the best outcomes for our students. And this has been informed by our support hub leaders, but also our educator, student, and family engagement processes. How can the board support? Attend the Equity Roadmap community listening sessions. Continue to be a champion for equity within your districts. Continue to actively advocate for the efforts of the DEI division. And then importantly, support the investments that directly continue to impact the focused outcomes within our district. As I leave on this note, I harken back to the quote that we first started out with. Right? We understand that this must change hearts, but there is a sense of urgency in education that requires us to commit to the work while changing hearts. And this means we must commit to the journey while also committing to the work. And over this last year, we are still on the journey, but we are definitely committed to the work of processing and moving our strategies forward in the support that every student has what they need to be most successful. Dr. Battle, I will stop there and turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Ashford, for the update regarding our equity roadmap, which is one of our signature initiatives. And Vice Chair Player, I'll return it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Battle and Mr. Hughes. Is there any questions or comments? Board Member Mays. Former Chair,
We'll
Chair
get it
Emeritus.
together.
Yeah.
We'll get it together. So first of all, thank you, Ashford, and I think you might need some water after that presentation. That was really well done. Thank you for that. Quick question for you. Do we already have dates on the calendar for the Equity Roadmap listening sessions?
I'll share those with the board members.
Okay, those were phenomenal, and I learned a lot from those. So I'm so glad to see that we're continuing that effort. But thank you for the presentation. It was really well done.
Thank you.
Member Tyler.
Hey, thank you so much for this presentation. So I guess a lot of this was really big picture, and I appreciate that because it gives us an idea of where we're going, and that's what we need to know. I would love to hear a little bit more specifics about how are we ensuring that we're actually integrating this equity lens across the district? Like, what are we doing to ensure that we've moved beyond we've introduced this, we've given you professional development on this. We've ensured that we've circled back around. We're creating a culture by bringing in principals so that they're creating that culture in their own schools. All these are wonderful steps. But what are we doing to ensure that it actually takes and that it's going to be permeating the entire district and not just a couple schools here and there?
Yeah, Ashford, if you want to talk about specific efforts from your department, I'm happy to chime in from a more global district level if needed.
Okay, so from the DEI team perspective now, again, we don't like to just say what's happening with DEI alone because we work with a myriad of departments, but for the last year, we've really been working with our coaches and our division of schools and our executive directors to ensure when there's our school improvement plans, when things are taking place, that we have an eye for what are they being evaluated on? What are some of the rubric that we're looking at to ensure that this is taking place? So as SEL does their SEL walkthroughs, we've worked with them to incorporate, here are 2 principles from the equity lens that we want to ensure going forward. So we've been working across departments for those organizations and entities that are in the schools every day, many of our coaches, our executive directors and their team, to help give feedback. Are we seeing that in the evaluation? Are our teachers processing through this? And we're still early in the phase. We are seeing pockets of great growth, but we know we have more to go. And that's why we say we know where we are now, but we're consistently processing forward. We have a cohort that we've been working with that we can really see and look at the data to show the deep dive in this work. And as we show the progress and process in that, we're working again across departments to say, hey, our coaches, those within the division of schools, here's how we're doubling down on these efforts. And as we expand on what evaluation looks like, that's when we'll be able to really say across the district, are we seeing this run with fidelity everywhere across our district?
And I can chime in with 2 specific strategies. I could give you a number of them, but two in particular. One, when we leverage our panorama survey, we have specific questions where we're engaging with all of our stakeholders around how our equity roadmap strategies are being integrated in everything that we do and everything we touch, which is in alignment to our focus outcomes. That is one example. Another example is we launched our leadership framework a few years ago, which is applicable to every employee in the district because we see all of our employees as leaders. And so we have a consistent leadership framework. And our leadership framework, and this is quite frankly an adjustment we've made as we've gotten deeper in our equity roadmap journey, it speaks specifically to our equity work in our equity roadmap. And so our leadership framework can be crosswalked to everything that we do from our coaching and feedback perspective. So you can think about that in terms of our recruitment. You can think of it in terms of our retention, which we know is greatly important. You can think about it in terms of instructional delivery feedback. You can think of it in terms of our student-based budgeting model, our matrix with regards to how we deliver resources, and quite frankly, how we make decisions based upon what's best for our students. And so when you think about specific strategies, like definitely, and our brains have been picked so much from other districts across this country around how we leverage our survey data to monitor and to get that feedback, but also grounding ourselves in our leadership framework, which has its own leadership plays around how that plays out in the decisions and the work that we engage in every day.
And do we have a mechanism in place for teachers or staff members who are in schools that have concerns, that want to reach out but don't feel comfortable doing it at the school level? How are we addressing that?
I think, Ashford, you could probably speak to that even better than I can.
I think that it's still a work in progress, but yes, we do have anonymous surveys that educators can take. We've been working again, and I continue to lean on our partnership with the Division of Schools and our professional learning department and finding ways to evaluate the work that we're doing in a true evaluation stance. Right now, we've been gathering information directly from participants, but we try to find ways so that the information is anonymous and our educators feel comfortable with giving and releasing that feedback, whether good or bad. And we walk through that when we look at our MTSS data, when we look at the data from the PD that we do on any regular basis. And that's what's helping us to become better in our delivery process.
Yeah, you can think about this kind of in a tiered model. I'm glad you brought up MTSS because we have our district strategies, which are foundational to all the work that we do. I mean, in a district, in a large urban school district like MNPS, equity is our work. That is the work that we engage in every day. So we've thought about it, one, in kind of like a tier one approach, what is foundational to our work as a school district. But we've also allowed for, if you look back through the where we've been and where we're going, a lot of those opportunities have been individual schools, instructional leadership teams, or leaders within the district saying, hey, I'm ready for this next level of our work. Or I've noticed something, here's a challenge that I want to learn more about so that I can plug in and help us resolve whatever the opportunity may be in their own classroom or school or network. And so we've kind of thought about it in tiered approaches. Ashford showed that continuum at the beginning of his presentation. And so so we believe that there are multiple avenues by which you can engage in this equity work. And so it is about changing hearts and minds. It's about believing, and then it's about integrating that work in everything we do. And we want to have kind of a multi-tiered support process so that we can meet everyone where they are and help develop them.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed that I love the community meetings to gather feedback. I would assume that students are also welcome to come to those as well as community members, since they're considered community members.
To date, we held them for community leaders to gather
Just
from them.
leaders,
Just
okay.
community leaders.
Which are also many times parents of students. And we've also had some of those leaders who are graduates of our schools as well. Anyway, so that's where we've started. And again, we have been in a do now, build towards. These conversations are leading us somewhere, which include multiple stakeholder touch points. But we wanted to start somewhere and really build from that to make sure that we're speaking to and engaging with all the right leaders across the community to have a robust plan.
Okay. And then am I to assume from that there will be an opening up to not just community leaders at some point, but to the community in
At
general?
some point, we're working on this is phase 3 of those community meetings, and Asher shared the protocol. It was vitally important that our initial meetings were an opportunity for us to hear from the community and our community leaders. And so, quite frankly, while myself and my cabinet were there, we didn't really present or ask a question unless it was a direct question. It was really a facilitated conversation for us to hear from the community. And so we've been building from that. So the second time we convened, we were able to say, like, this is what we heard, right? Here's some things that we have in place. In this third phase, we're really moving into a co-design model in some of the cohort meetings that we'll continue to iterate on. So this is a brand new kind of pilot, if you will, to make sure that, we have the touch points. We're out in the community. Quite frankly, our community leaders are setting the dates and the locations and the times. We're going. Regardless of how far late it is, we're going because it's important for us to be out in the community to get that information. So it's continuing to evolve. I can see it. I can see us building a really strong structure and model that we can then replicate.
And then I'm just kind of looking at the slide about where we are right now, where you were talking about the Tier 1 instruction, extended learning time, SEL, academic integration, and then the college and career readiness. Do we have metrics that we're attaching to these that are aspirational for us? And in which case are those going to be shared with us? How are we going to?
So, so our focus outcomes are where we are. They are, one, aspirational. They are both. So our district focus outcome is driven by individual schools' focus outcomes, which are driven by our individual student outcomes. So we will continue to double down on those focus outcomes. Part of our success, when you think about 2 years of being a level 5, highest literacy scores, when you think about all those metrics that are moving in the right direction, part of that formula is our ability to focus on the outcomes that we want on behalf of all of our students and all of our student groups. In addition to that, when you think about our equity matrix, and we've had multiple conversations around this, whether it was some of our uniform strategies with regards to Metro Schools Reimagine, whether that was turf fields, whether that was our equity lab work, where we now have those dual enrollment courses, and all of those decisions and their resource deployment are based on, one, those focus outcomes and really understanding where acceleration is needed. Two specific, other specific examples, when you think about our Tier 1 instruction, part of that push and implementation around Literacy Reimagine was to decrease the variance there so that we can understand then, based upon our good foundational work, how do we intervene if a student is not there? What came out of that was, part of that was our scholars portfolio, of which we have now a pretty robust portfolio with our Promise and Accelerating and Enriching Scholars. So when you think specifically about enriching scholars, if you notice that that's not a strategy for every school, that is very specific to accelerate outcomes where we see what we know is a national challenge and closing that achievement gap. The good news for us is that we are growing all of our students. And so there's a fine kind of design, if you will, because what we don't want to subject ourselves to is not growing all of our students. That matters. Typically, when you're talking about growth, we tend to be very minimal in our assessment of that, of thinking that's just for our lower performing students. Absolutely not. Our students who are in the bottom buckets, middle buckets, and high buckets deserve the opportunity to continue to grow. And so we're being very strategic with that matrix and how, given the aspirational goals we have through our focus outcomes, how do we accelerate all of our student groups towards it?
Thank you. And then I know we usually, always do a really good job about ensuring that when you break down data for us, that you break it down into different groups so that we can look at it in a variety of lenses and in a
Absolutely.
variety of ways. And I really appreciate that, and I want to encourage
You
that
will continue to see that.
Yeah.
In fact, you will have a few upcoming directors' updates that are focused on our academic work. You'll see some around our advanced academics work with the University MNPS, Literacy Reimagined, and we always, even with our SEL work when it comes to disproportionality, that is all broken down by our student groups, which are grounded in our focus outcomes.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to do that, and you will see some upcoming updates to the board and to the community.
Great. I hope does that include because I know you guys have worked really hard on expanding access to EBSOs and advanced academics.
Absolutely.
In particular, and I
We're
would love to
super
hear more
excited
about
to share that.
So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
Absolutely.
As we learn more about it. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate the work you do and what you're doing for us to help us see everything through a lens that permeates every single decision we make instead of being seen as a silo that's separate. So, thank you.
Member O'Hara Block?
I want to reiterate that same point, I think, which is, Dr. Battle, you say this, and when we talked about focused outcomes, we talked about the director evaluation, we talked about other things, and every time that we have one of these director's reports and there is a presentation, it identifies which core tenets we're talking about, and every time we're talking about any sort of student data, identify and eliminate inequities is listed as the one of a couple of core tenets that we're focused on. And so I just want to recognize that I think sometimes folks have a tendency to want to see specific data called out. I'm one of those people, and I'm going to touch on a couple of these points in a second. But you all have woven this in everywhere very nicely, such that it's not as if equity is a thing to be done separately. It is that equity is what we do. And ensuring that we're serving all kids in the ways they need to be served is what happens. The one thing on the data point that I would encourage us to think about doing, I might have expected to see and hear some of the things you referred to. So some of the sort of panorama data on belonging or these, yeah, go ahead.
So
But you're sort of
Right.
purposeful in that.
absolutely, because we have some updates that are coming specifically around those data points.
Great.
So you'll see, so for instance, we've just finished our last round of benchmark. We're in the process of finishing our FAST assessments. You're going to see data points around that. You're going to see data points around where we are with the attendance. You're going to see where we are with our EBSO. So those are not, it is integrated. It is integrated as a part of.
Right.
There's no point of having an equity roadmap if it's not in concert with what your goals are. And this is something that our brains get picked on a lot. And I often share a side when I present of how difficult it is to not just have random acts of like love and support and focus, right? Like it could go everywhere if you're not careful. What we're trying to design and curate is a system and structures that are always pointing, everything we do is always pointing in the right direction. When we're in our cabinet meetings, if it does not help accelerate literacy, numeracy, SEL, which includes our attendance and our transitions, we almost, it's a priority, but everything has to work towards that acceleration, and that goes alongside with the equity roadmap and our signature initiative. It helps us really integrate, really be focused, provide the supports and resources for all of our leaders to make sure that they're connected to their work and at least exploring how we continue to move the needle forward. So that's Tina, maybe Mason, maybe Renita, or Dr. Or Lisa conversation about how we pull it all together, because if we're not careful, it becomes Ashford.
Right.
This is a collective effort to move the needle forward on behalf of everyone. And I've seen that mistake made over and over and over again. This is about our coordinated and collective effort to move focused outcomes forward for our students. And so we're in a good space because all students are growing, but we are very intentional around monitoring our student groups, providing updates to this board and the community around where we have persistent achievement gaps. So we will continue to do that, but I just wanted to jump ahead and say, because it's coming.
Yeah.
That data and information is coming. We still need a couple weeks on getting all the academic data in, but we're working towards it so that you will have that at your disposal. And this will be an ongoing conversation. So consider this equity roadmap update just a kickoff to the equity conversations we're going to continue to have through the end of the school year, through the summer, and into next school year as well.
Yeah, and I see it as much through, again, every time we talk about data, we're talking about it in a disaggregated form. We're talking about all of the different ways we're thinking about equity among different groups. We're talking about how are we addressing, every time one of us asks a question that is, how are we dealing with this gap or that thing? We talk back to the same sort of, set of signature initiative things you all are talking about, leadership, playbook, et cetera. The one area that I have had more question in is around the idea of from the SEL perspective, the idea of belonging, and you mentioned teacher retention and some of these other things. So I've sort of a two-part question on that, which is, one is that are some of those things that we could have more information about in reporting over time? And two, when you all see, you talked about sort of folks raising their hand on, hey, I'd love to do these kinds of trainings and other things. If you see in panorama data, et cetera, that there is something going on in a particular school, what happens then?
Yeah, I don't think there's a day that goes by that we're not having those conversations. Again, it's kind of a multi-tiered support based upon what we're seeing. If we see something that's a trend across multiple schools or multiple tiers, we address and provide supports and strategies accordingly. We also have individual tiered visits and support sessions for each of our schools as needed. That's based upon our need, but we are consistently digging into the data and determining what strategies, one, are working, because we always, the beautiful thing about Metro Nashville Public Schools is we typically don't have to look externally. There's usually some good work happening somewhere in our district that we can lean on. Our principals and our instructional leadership teams and our coaches and through our PD, we often lean on our leaders to share there's best practices. So, it's better probably for Renita or Mason to speak to this, but in our PON sessions, ED, our executive directors, principal supervisors, principals, work collectively to identify where there might be some opportunities for acceleration. And then that team and Stephanie Wyka, who's over our professional learning team, design learning experiences to help get at what the feedback is actually telling us. I personally, when I visit schools, this is the kind of clarity we have. It is no surprise that we're talking about our focus outcomes. It is expected that we're going to talk about where we are with literacy, where we are with numeracy, where we are with our SEL, including our attendance and our transition planning. And part of that is the feedback. And I'm looking at my document here. Part of that is the feedback around things like our panorama survey. Now, I do want to give one caveat about our panorama survey. Because of new state laws, we are very limited in our ability right now to both administer and rely on our panorama survey. So our student support services team, in collaboration with my office, are creating other avenues by which we will lift student voice and get their feedback. And so we are not going to let that allow us not to uplift student voice and get their feedback. We're okay on the staff and teacher end. It's the student end where state laws are very limiting for us, but we're building out those avenues right now around how we're going to continue to engage and get feedback around belonging, the culture of diversity, the student engagement, the relationships, the voice, so on and so forth.
The approach it makes a ton of sense. It's obviously really well integrated and aligned in everything you do. I think part of it is helping to make sure that the community understands it. And this has been really helpful for that. So thank you.
Yeah, and I will say, as part of, I think when you're talking about DEI work, that's just kind of the quick and easy way to go around the goals. But that's something we've talked about in some of our community meetings as well. And like, we've really found that we're really asking a different question with regards to that. But we'll continue to listen and really dig into that and being responsive. But we've been able to identify some trends and what, I mean, our stakeholders, our community leaders are sharing back with us around, one, their engagement with our DEI work and kind of looking towards both long-term and short-term, collaborative strategies, which is exciting to really hear. But we're learning more through that engagement and are addressing that through these community engagement tours.
No, yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
Member Nabalakini?
Hey, I just want to say, I have had the opportunity to probably attend all of the equity roadmap tours and be able to participate and listen in on those discussions. And I want to say that while formal and informal in cases, because where we intend somewhere to go in one direction, it veers into another direction. I really appreciate the intentionality of Dr. Battle and her team and board members who attend these presentations to really listen to what community members are saying and work to implement that. One thing that I have seen, and I've been in the district for a very long time, is I have not seen the level of engagement that we have seen at senior level staff coming in. So that's Dr. Battle and her cabinet. And so you have a team of about 10 or 15 people going to community meetings after hours, after they've worked an entire day, to meet community members where they are and to really listen and engage and listen to what the concerns are to help them better support families and students within our district. And so even in the different communities that we have visited, I agree with Dr. Battle that we have seen some overarching themes that are across all of our districts that we're really working to address and really working to implement. And I've also seen how each one of Dr. Battle's team and cabinet members have thought about that in a way on how can I improve human resources or curriculum and instruction or all of our different departments across and what would that look like to better support our faculty and staff as well as our students and families across the district. And so I know we're still kind of in our infancy, but this work is extremely important and I believe that it has made an impact in the work that we are doing. The fact that we are rolling students off of our priority schools list, the fact that we have seen students grow from our lowest learners to our highest learners, and we're not widening the achievement gap. We are consistently keeping it going, and we're thinking about ways in which we can accelerate to close that gap. So I really appreciate the way that we are aligning what our focused outcomes are from our district to our school level to our individual student to be able to support really that ideology that every student is known. Truly, we are looking at every single student within our district and how we can best support them and support their success within our district. So thank you to Dr. Battle and your team and Mr. Hughes and your team and the work that you guys are doing to truly implement this across the district.
And I'll just add one of those conversations where we talked about how we can work together to retain and recruit staff to represent the students who are reflected in that student group. So like good stuff is coming out of it, both eye-opening on both ends, I think. So because we're able to share like in a more smaller, intimate way, like what the challenges really are and what the community can really help us with and messaging and recruitment and marketing, and then how we're going to meet our leaders with the experiences that they deserve. So it's been very fruitful.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. Thank you, Mr. Hughes, for your presentation. Now we'll move on to public participation. According to our policy, we ask the public to speak on items that are on the agenda and relevant to the agenda. Each member will have roughly 3 minutes. Dr. Severe will ring the bell when your time is expired. And so now we will go into public participation. Ms. Laos or Laos? Correct me for the proper.
Laos.
Oh, okay, I was right the first time.
And on the form to sign up, it did not allow me, it made me choose one of the contractors. There wasn't another option to speak on. So, but I do want to speak about the equity roadmap as it pertains to MLK. I just couldn't choose that on the online form. Good evening, Chair, members of the board. My name is Sarah Laus, and I live in District 8. I've also been a school counselor at MLK for the past 12 years, and part of my current job responsibilities include working with prospective families and analyzing MLK application and enrollment data. I am choosing to speak tonight to add my voice to the myriad others who have reached out to request that MNPS reconsider its decision to phase out 7th and 8th grade at MLK. I'm specifically proposing that MLK expand to include 6th grade such that MNPS opens up more academic magnet seats for middle schoolers. As you may be aware, the current enrollment at MLK is slightly more than 1,200 students, yet our building capacity is 1,500 students. We are at 80% capacity with 9 empty classrooms. Our 7th and 8th grade classes average 125 students, the whole class size. Respectively, our 9th grade class more than doubles in size, such that we are generally projected to have 280 students in each 9th through 12th grade class. That being said, our 9th grade class for the past 2 years has been closer to 220 students, meaning we are currently under-enrolled by more than 50 students in 9th and also 10th grade. Any qualified 9th through 12th grade applicant has been offered the opportunity to attend MLK. This means we have not had any 9th through 12th grade students on our waiting list to pull from the start of school for over 5 years. Conversely, we had 76 students on our waiting list for 7th grade and 50 on our waiting list for 8th grade at the start of school in August 2023. There's clearly a demand for middle school academic magnet seats that MLK is unable to accommodate. By phasing out 7th and 8th grade at MLK, the district is reducing academic magnet middle school seats by more than 40%. If MLK was to phase out 7th and 8th graders, it will bring our 9th through 12th grade enrollment down to 950 students. That's 63% of our building capacity. Losing 1/4 of our student body would also mean losing 1/4 of our faculty. We currently have 60 classroom teachers at MLK, so this would mean losing 15 teachers. In addition to losing our 8 middle school core teachers, that would mean losing an additional 7 teachers from high school. Thus far, I have been in support of the MLK Reimagine plan. As an educator and a parent, I believe the decision to keep 5th grade at the elementary level is wise. And as it pertains to MLK, I've been hopeful that the district would decide to expand access to academic middle school seats by adding a 6th grade class at MLK in the 25-26 school year. Adding 125 6th grade students would bring MLK's total enrollment to roughly 1,345 students, or 90% capacity. We would still be able to accommodate up to 280 students in 9th through 12th grade to reach our total building capacity of 1,500 students. According to the MNPS, okay.
Thank you. You could,
Because the beginning, I was kind of, can I have a few, 30 more seconds?
I'll allow you 30 seconds to finish up.
Thank you. According to the MNPS Open Data Portal, the current sixth grade enrollment in MNPS is 5,446 students. But this cohort of students had an enrollment of 6,000 when they were in fourth grade. Is my understanding the district loses most middle school most students between elementary and middle. There are currently 6,000 fourth graders enrolled across MNPS. These fourth graders would be the first class of sixth graders if MLK were to add 125 sixth grade seats, which would equate to just 2% of available sixth grade seats in the district. This is an objectively small amount of impact to MNPS middle schools in general, but would provide an attractive option for families looking to enroll in an academic magnet middle. Perhaps instead of losing more than 500 students between elementary and middle school and MNPS each year, we could open up 125 additional seats in sixth grade and increase district student retention rates. The waiting list data for MLK, middle school at MLK and MEGS supports this assertion.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. Bartis.
Good evening, Dr. Battle. Good evening, school board members. Like my colleague, Ms. Laus, the option for speaking on the equity mobile rep was not on the form, so that is what I'm here to speak about with you. I am here representing the MLK World Language Department as chair to express our concerns over these proposed changes to remove the middle school from MLK and the negative impact it would have on the academic opportunities available to future students. We are the only public high school in Tennessee to offer 5 different languages: French, German, Latin, Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish, as well as their respective advanced placement courses. And students have the opportunities to engage in each language's respective honor society, take part in national contests, and study abroad. The middle school is an integral part of our school and the language programs we offer, with students beginning their studies in 7th grade. Research strongly supports the earlier a student begins their studies, the more likely they are to succeed in developing intermediate and advanced proficiency in the language of their choice. Were the middle school to be dissolved, there is no question in my mind that this would negatively impact the language choices available to our students, as there are currently no plans to expand languages available at Head Magnet, and students would not begin their study in French, German, Latin, or Chinese until 9th grade. Our students who continue to the upper levels of MLK's world language courses are prepared to pass the entrance and placement exams in the language at the college or university level. They are taking the skills they learn to a highly advanced level where they can use the language in a profession where bilingual skills are an asset. For example, international business, engineering, research, medicine, and education. Our 7 world language teachers hold a combined teaching experience of over 130 years. Many of us hold master's degrees, have been advanced placement graders, served on our state's board of directors, presented at state and national conferences, and have served on Metro Nashville Public Schools Content Council. Several of us take on 5 and 6 preps and teach 7th grade through 12th grade. How many other teachers in the district are willing to take on this workload? We are deeply committed to our students, and we do so because we know it is the right thing for them and the benefits language study can bring to their personal lives. I respectfully request that this proposal be reconsidered as is the wrong path for MLK's future. We should work towards building new opportunities for our future students, not put existing programs in jeopardy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Ragland? Mr. Ragland? All right, Ms. Fierson, or Fierson, sorry. Ms. Fierson? All right, that will be the end of public participation. We have approved the consent agenda by the adoption of our agenda, so the consent agenda gets approved by default since there wasn't any changes to the agenda. We will move on to board reports. We did have a capital needs committee meeting before this, which you'll see earlier. We started to have initial discussion of the capital needs of the district and the rank of the facility scores for all of our schools, and then an initial draft of the budget requests that we would submit to Metro General Government. We will vote on the capital budget requests at our next meeting for that decision to move forward into the capital budgeting process. We will now move on to announcements. We will begin with District 4. Yes. And it's a school night.
It is a school night,
Literally.
so my comments will be limited. Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you had a great start to your new year and a great start to the returning to school. Just a couple of announcements. I will be hosting a coffee and conversations in District 4 on, I wasn't ready to go first, y'all, on January the 17th. I will post that information online so that you'll have it available online. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your week, and hope to see you at our next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. District 6.
Yeah, I'm like you. This is really throwing me off a little bit here. Okay. So thank you, Chair. It is MLK week, y'all. I'm excited about this. So I'm just going to give a quick reminder of the events that are happening over the next few days. Wednesday, tomorrow, will be the kickoff of our MLK week of events. It will start with our Banner Day. That will be held at Hadley Community Center from 5 to 7:30. And this is an opportunity for organizations to create banners that will be used in our annual march. It'll be a great event, so please come out and support that. On Thursday will be our MLK Gala. The doors will open at 5:30, and I've just been notified that it's a sold-out event. So if you don't have your tickets, so sad, too bad. Check the pictures online later. On Friday, we will have the Labor and Human Rights Breakfast from 7:30 till 9:30. Tickets are still available for that online, and it will be held at Scarrett Bennett Center. They have great food, so trust me, you'll want to come if you are available. On Saturday, we're excited to have our youth symposium and intergenerational panel. Our very own Dr. Battle will be participating in that event as well. And our very own student school board member, Elena Mitchell, will be a part of the intergenerational panel. And we will have students from the Hillsborough Sunrise Group participating in the workshop event. So we will have a lot of our kids that will be represented at that event. And we will also present to our T-shirt design winner her award and a certificate for designing our T-shirts for the 2024 season. And that, of course, is an 11th grader at Glencliff High School. So we're excited about that. On Sunday will be our Women of Faith panel, and again, our very own Dr. Battle will be participating in that event, along with TSU President Dr. Glenda Glover and Nashville State President Dr. Shanna Jackson. That will be at Scarrett Bennett. That begins from 3 o'clock till 5, I believe. And on Monday, we will have our annual March to Gentry and Convocation. The march will be held at Jefferson Street Baptist Church. Events will start at 7:30 a.m., and the march will begin precisely at 9. The convocation will begin at 10 a.m. at Gentry Center, featuring our keynote speaker, Nikki Giovanni. And just as an FYI, the weather is supposed to take a turn by Monday. I'm looking at the weather reports right now. We're supposed to have AM showers, but unless we have some dangerous situations, we will move forward with the plans for Monday. So bring your heavy coat and your long johns. And that will conclude, Monday will conclude our week of events with convocation. But don't forget, we will have a historic event at Vanderbilt right after that. I think it starts at 3 o'clock. The Fisk University gymnasts will participate in a historical event at Vanderbilt where I believe it is all of the coaches from these gymnastics teams will be here in Nashville for a special gymnastics event. So that will be at 3 o'clock on Monday. So go and support those young ladies if you have an opportunity to do so. And we will begin having District 6 community meetings again in February. I will post those events online. And I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Battle and your entire team for helping pull together the Youth Symposium. It's going to be an amazing event.
Is it gonna be
It will be, excuse me, I did not say that, did I? The Youth Symposium will be held at MLK Academic Magnet School on 17th Avenue North, and it will be an amazing event. We hope that everybody comes out. And one thing about that, we will have, breakfast will be available free of charge for those who register in advance. If you don't register, don't come in there asking me where your donut is. The information is available on our website at mlkdaynashville.com. You can sign up to attend the workshops, but I encourage everyone to come out. Please encourage your young people to come out. It'll be some great workshops that they don't want to miss. So thank you.
Thank you. My announcement for District 7 is Gold Lady Bulldogs. District 8.
I'm on the MLK Day website, so I'm going to defer and say, everyone go attend the MLK Day events. Thank you.
District 9.
Tomorrow is your last chance to come and see the SpongeBob musical at James Lawson High School. Doors open at 6 o'clock. The show's going to begin at 7, and it is completely free, although all donations are very welcome at any point in time to support our visual and performing arts department. And just a note to remind everybody, they were chosen across the entire state as one of two theater groups that would get to perform again, and they're the musical. One's a play and the other's a musical. And so this is an extremely high quality performance. I encourage you to come. I think it's going to be amazing. Thank you.
Be no further business. We are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.